Welcome back. Brian Calfano along with our Ozarks first contributors, Nick Reed, who's over at KSGF 1041, and of course, Amy Blancett, who is the head of the Drew Lewis Foundation. Good to see you both. And we are back and open for business in Southwest Missouri. And the question, Nick, was this all necessary with the government closing things down? We're not to the end of this pandemic. I guess we've saved folks some degree of illness and we've saved some people from dying. But now that we're back open, what does this say about the government response overall?
Ultimately, my take is that when it comes to this theoretical idea that you can, number one, stop people from dying is in and of itself ludicrous. I mean, we all do die. So then I suppose the question is, well, can we put off the inevitable for some time? And that's essentially what the argument has been to some degree. I know we've talked about this before, but part of the frustration is the moving target or the goalpost, if you will. In the very beginning, it wasn't about stopping people from getting sick. It was simply about making sure that that number of people was spread out over a period of time so that hospitals would be able to handle it. And of course, in this area, hospitals have been sitting essentially empty compared to the way that we were told that it was going to be. Now, of course, we're told that they saved us from that. That's proof that it worked. Well, the benefit of that argument is you can't really prove it's not true. We don't have a time machine to go back and to create an alternate timeline in which we allow people to make those decisions for themselves. So that's one of the benefits of being a person in charge and making these decisions. You can claim victory no matter what.
Okay, but some people were saved. People were in a safer position, presumably, being at home.
I don't believe if you have any sort of virus that's going around that's contagious, that you can ultimately stop it from spreading. It may get spread out over a longer period of time, but if the idea is that somehow this is really bad, so we want to stop it from spreading, we're going to alter people's behavior. The only way that you can possibly do that is to literally imprison people, isolated from all human contact for a period of time. So unless you're going to do that, this is just, it's like you got a house that's falling apart and you slap a coat of paint on it so it looks nicer, even though really the ultimate problem you haven't done away with. You may have put off the inevitable by changing the appearance of it. So I am of the belief that you cannot stop it from happening. So then what, of course, occurs? And I'm not the only one. I mean, there are a number of scientists and doctors that say it's the herd immunity. And it's the way that we used to deal with chicken pox, is that you get it done and over with as early and as soon as possible. And that way it all sort of, settles itself. Yesterday, it was earlier this week, Andrew Cuomo in New York revealed that they were shocked that 66% of people who were hospitalized with coronavirus were people that had quarantined. Now, this is, of course, the opposite of what we've been told. We've been told that that's how it is, that you don't get it, yet you're twice as likely in the actual outcome. But it is totally consistent with what we know, and it should not be considered something that was unexpected, because the people that are most likely to be able to self-quarantine are people that are either of a retirement age or they do not work because they're on some sort of disability because of health. Well, who also is most likely to suffer due to coronavirus? It's those two categories. But we keep conflating people who have it with people who get hospitalized for it. And this is part of the problem as well. These numbers of confirmed cases, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely completely useless. They are totally meaningless, because that does not in any way, shape, or form tell us how many people actually have it.
All right, Amy, over to you. How much did the local government overstep its bounds with these stay-at-home orders?
So I think everyone's going to have a different opinion about, was it enough? Was it too much? And I think that opinion comes from our personal experiences. Nick's been very lucky that no one in his direct family was affected. Many of us feel that way. And so sure, it's why did the government shut us down? It's a ton of debt that now we're going to be responsible for and our children. But for those individuals, like a very close friend of mine who lost his mother as a result of COVID, he gladly went in and gladly has stayed in and followed government orders. So sure, was it too much whenever you have no experience with it? And what are we doing to save one life or 100,000 lives, which are hearing some people say? When one of those lives are someone in your immediate family or your close friends, I think your opinion's very different. So a low number of cases in Springfield, we're seeing Branson open up 100% without mask or precaution. It's because we've had low numbers. And so when we think about pandemic, it's not happening to us locally, right? Only a few people have personally been affected by losing a loved one locally. But when you're in Barcelona, like my sister, who's lost 100 people that are close to her, or when you're in New York or on the East or the West Coast, where we're seeing high numbers, your opinion's very different because your experience is very different with what this virus is doing to those around you.
Although critics will say we didn't see those high numbers in Southwest Missouri.
But what if the numbers had been more dramatic? What if the pandemic had had 30% of individuals affected or a higher death rate? It's one of those that this argument will never be won, because when we're talking about prevention and when we're taking measures, we never know what could have happened. But hindsight's great. And if we could all live our lives with hindsight, we'd all probably be living in luxury and making really brilliant decisions on the stock market and who knows what else. It's one of those where it seems like our local government did enough at the right time. Our numbers have been low, and we'll see. If the numbers start to climb up again, I hope individuals will support government doing another shutdown to save us and our loved ones.
Okay, got to leave it there. Nick Reed and Amy Blancett, thanks for your perspective on this evolving story. And folks, we'll be back after this.